Thank you for joining us on Madison HD Sportsnet, presented by the JMU Alumni Association. A special edition today as we're with Coach Brady to discuss one of the new recruits who will be joining the men's basketball program. A young man, actually a little older player, a junior college transfer in Winston Grays, a 6'2" shooting guard and a scorer, 20 points per game, a junior college All-American. Coach, first of all, your overall impression on the young man who will be joining your program?
Well, I think first of all, he's a young guy that we've been aware of for some time, Kevin. We had evaluated him in the fall. At the time, didn't have a need for a wing scorer, but recruited him during the year just in the off chance that that need became obvious, and certainly it has. And he had a terrific second year. In fact, he's had 2 great years in junior college. Was a National Player of the Year, Division II Junior College National Player of the Year this year. He was his Conference Player of the Year in a really good league. And obviously, you just mentioned all the points that he scored. But he is a really fluid basketball player, high basketball IQ, very unselfish, makes the extra pass very easily, and really can play a couple different positions. He can play backup point guard if need be, and did for his junior college team, and had some really astounding conference games this year. He had one game where he had 40 points. He's had 30 a number of times. Yet again, he's had 4 or 5 assists in a game a number of times. So, we think a terrific young guy. A very team-oriented player, and a guy that was interested in us when we first started recruiting him. Then we came back with the opportunity to have him visit, and then eventually offer him a scholarship. Was really excited to be a part of our program.
Now, that's a program in Cincinnati State you're familiar with. You've had 2 players, Rayshon Gons and James Millen, come from there recently. Did those relationships help you in pulling in Winston?
Well, I think it did, because Winston was actually supposed to visit George Mason this coming weekend, May 2nd. Had a tentative agreement to visit UNC Wilmington. Had already taken a previous official visit. But I do think the relationship we have with the coaching staff really helped. Rayshon doesn't really know Winston face-to-face, but knew of him when he was growing up. He's a couple years behind him. Knew that he was a talented kid and heard a lot of good things about him during his time at Cincinnati State. In fact, FaceTiming with Rayshon the other day, and he had already become aware of the fact. Rayshon is right now in Australia, but was excited to hear that another Cincinnati State kid was here. And I think the relationship with the staff at Cincinnati State really helped us. In fact, I think when he knew that we were going to offer him, he really turned down the opportunity to visit George Mason, and Wilmington was excited to be a part of our program. And we're excited to have him.
In terms of shooting, obviously one of the strengths for Winston Grays, and something your team struggled with at times last year, ranking near the bottom in a lot of shooting categories. How is he going to help in stretching the offense, providing a threat from the three-point arc?
Well, I think his numbers are terrific. I think as a freshman he shot 42% from three-point range. As the scouted guy and the most dominant offensive player in the league as a sophomore, he shot 36% from 3, and he made a bunch. So even with all the defensive attention the teams played or paid to him this year, his numbers are really something else. When I went out to Danville to the national tournament, watched him play, in the national tournament just recently, about a month or so ago, in a game that they won, he got in foul trouble and had 13 straight points in the beginning of the second half to help his team win that game. So he's an explosive offensive player, but he really lets the game come to him. So I think he's a guy with good size, really a good basketball IQ, and I think one of the more impressive things about him is he's excited to be here with us. I think he understands we have a lot of pieces here. He brings to us a lot of things that will really help us, and I think that our team three-point field goal percentage was going to go up this year anyway. We had some key guys coming back that we think we're going to have natural progression in terms of shooting ability. Ron Curry's had a terrific offseason already doing that. So we like where we're heading with that in terms of that aspect of the game.
One question fans are immediately going to ask is, how is your team filling the void of Charles Cook? Now, Winston Grays is a different build than Charles Cook, but how is he going to step in? He'll be a junior guard just like Charles would have.
Well, I think number one, he's a terrific three-point shooter, and I think he'll be one of the league's best three-point shooters next year. He's played a lot. He's played over 60 college games already at the junior college level, so he's an experienced player. He's a very good passer. He's really good on ball screens. I think it's an area that we weren't very good at this year and tried to get away from. So there are things that he's really good at that I think are really going to help our team. Obviously, notably, the three-point percentage, but he's the guy that's a double-figure scorer for us, we think, right away. So we're excited about the production he's going to bring to us, but we're really excited about the fact that he wants to be here, wants to help us win. Those are intangibles that he brings that we're really excited about.
Another thing fans will look at, the three young men leaving the program and how we're filling those voids, but at the same time, not to be overlooked, two guys who committed back in the fall you expect to be big pieces for this team. Since we talked about them in the fall, obviously they've had their senior years, and you just visited recently with Hari Hall and Dante Sterling. Can you give us an update on those two?
Well, I think number one, Kev, I'm really excited about the pieces we already have in place. I think in this day and age, you're going to have young people leave a program. Charles was a little bit of a disappointment. We really wish him the best of luck going forward. I thought he had a tremendous opportunity at JMU. Third-team All-League as a sophomore. We played through him an awful lot. He averaged almost 37 or 38 minutes a game, so he had a terrific opportunity. The other guys were going to be really challenged, I think, to kind of maintain the same level of input, because I think the guys we have around our team already are really significant players. But as you mentioned, Hari Hall from Jacksonville, Florida, and Dante Sterling, we think two really significant pieces. Both of them are, all-state players in their respective states. Hari's coming from Florida. Dante's coming from Atlanta, Georgia. I had a chance to visit with both those guys this week and watch them in the gym working out, and they're both going to have immediate impact. Dante has a little bit further to go, I think, to have an immediate impact to the extent that maybe Hari Hall does. But I think that Dante Sterling will have a very similar impact to Charles Cook. In some ways, he's very similar. I think athletically may be further along. I think his ball handling skills may be a little further along than Charles at the same place. I said that, in the fall when we signed him, that I compared him very closely to Charles. In some ways, maybe a little further along. In some ways, certainly behind him, but certainly going to have a potential impact. Hari Hall, I think, is just a guy that's going to come in here and have an immediate impact, certainly. And I think I think both these guys have great futures here at JMU.
Now, looking at the incoming guys, there's still 2 scholarship spots open. What are your priorities for those positions that are still open?
Well, I think as we look at our team, Kevin, I think we're talking about perimeter depth and impact. So whether it's a high school player at one position or another, we are recruiting still a couple of other junior college wings that, in the case of one particular guy, we're hoping to visit a week from today, if not sooner. So I think depth, I think is something that we're looking at for the perimeter. I'm really kind of comfortable going forward with, the forwards we already have in the program, with the addition of Hari Hall being potential face-up 4-man, maybe sliding somebody from the perimeter over to the 4 spot. I'm really kind of comfortable with where we are at the 5 and the 4. We need somebody that can play point guard full-time. I think we need somebody to be a potential wing that can kind of swing at a couple different positions.
You alluded to it already a little bit with Ron Curry, but it's already been a month and a half since the season ended. Time flies. And how is the off-season development going for your returning players?
Well, I think it's been really strong. We've been in the weight room now 4 weeks in a row. We went from 6:30 to 7:30 in the morning, 3 days a week. We've done conditioning 2 days a week for the last 4 weeks. We've taken this week off for academics for last week of class. We can't touch our guys next week because it's final exams. They'll get a week off the following week, and then we come back for summer session 1. We'll all be back in the gym. But, really happy with how hard these guys are working, the development of these young guys. And the interesting thing about the freshman class, when you play freshmen a little bit, they have a taste of it. And I thought that those guys are really kind of bought into what it takes, the time they put into their own game. So, I would suspect that each of these guys will make a substantial jump from year 1 and year 2. And with the other 2 sophomores, Ron and Andre Nation, I think are really making progress. And I think the one thing with those 2 guys is they've got to become significantly better shooting the ball. You would have hoped that would have happened between their freshman and sophomore year. It's kind of human nature. The buy-in wasn't terrific with that sophomore class because I think they finished with such a flourish as freshmen and played so well at the end of the year that maybe there was a little bit of a sense that they had arrived. A little bit of humility with this past season, and now I think the obvious need for them, that they see themselves to grow as players, and so they're in the gym and working hard, and hopefully they'll get a lot better.
Well, Coach, we're excited to hear about the addition of Winston Grays. We look forward in the next few weeks to hearing about 2 more new Dukes to come. Thank you for tuning in on Madison HD Sportsnet, presented by the JMU Alumni Association.